Rightio, now we're going to Albury, the Lavington Sports Ground, and this was GWS and Sydney, and we've got someone on the ground there, actually on the ground, and that was Jake Steen from the GWS Giants. Jake, welcome.
Warnie, thanks for having me, mate.
Well, mate, you actually had the perfect view on the ground there, being able to see all the action take place. It was over 6 quarters, and I believe you spent most of that time out there. You played across the 6 quarters.
Yeah, I was out there for at least a bit of every quarter, and it was a long day, but it was a good day and good to be back playing some footy. So really good to see the season coming around nice and quick.
All right, you are a keen fantasy coach, so you're going to know what's going on here and helping us fantasy coaches out as well that are listening in. Let's start with your boys there. Tim Taranto, he spent a bit of time in the midfield, but I think the forward role is probably there and maybe real for those first 5 weeks at least.
Yeah, I think Timmy will definitely be the one of our mids that will probably spend that time forward. Probably just has that the best craft of our forwards, best craft of the mids playing forward, and can go forward, take a mark, kick a goal. So I think, unfortunately for fantasy coaches, he'll probably be that one that goes forward in that first 5 weeks without Toby. So that kind of hefty price tag he has from being such a good fantasy player might be a bit too high in the first few rounds.
Well, in Classic, it might be a good thing. We can see him drop his price and we can all pick him up a bit cheaper later on. So let's look at his mate there, Stephen Connelly. It was nice to see him, back, and he looked really fresh, and he obviously had a fair bit of time through the midfield, and I think he played one of his better games.
Yeah, Cogs, he looked sharp, he looked good. I think he just had a very good pre-season, and, no real hiccups, which has been good for him because it's been a couple of years now without getting that continuity into his body. So he just looks, very confident and just happy to be out there. And I think he was just enjoying being out there with the mids he spent all summer with, and Josh Kelly, Tom Green, Tim in there as well. Lockie Ash was rolling through there as well. So it was good for them all to have a good hit out all together because they've been going at each other for the last 3 to 4 weeks in our match sim. So it was good for them to run around and have a bit of opposition to chase after them.
We've always known it's such a deep midfield, and it's always interesting to see how that lines up, especially those centre bounces week to week. But I don't think a midfield role or anything like that matters a Lockie Whitfield, because he finds the ball wherever he wants, and I saw you give it to him a few times.
Yeah, I always, if I take a mark, I'm always looking around for witters to run off and take a kick. So he's one of the best kicks in the comp on his opposite leg, let alone his good leg. So he absolutely racked it up again last night, and I don't know the stats, but I dare say he probably would have nudged 30. So he's looking good.
That's awesome. So he's locked in your fantasy squad at the moment? Yeah,
he was first pick for me, and he'll probably stay there the whole season, I'd imagine. He looks good.
Epic. All right, let's have a look at the rucks now. Flynn, Bruce, we're all sort of asking questions about that. Bruce is so cheap for us, and I'd love to be able to do it, but who's probably got that stranglehold on the number 1 spot? From watching, I'm thinking Flynn might be the man at least to start the season.
Yeah, I think it's looking like Flynn at the moment. So Brucey obviously had the interrupted year last year with a couple of surgeries and then another back surgery in the off-season. So he's getting back into form and he's getting fit and strong again. And he looked really good in the 3 quarters that he played yesterday. But that was his first bit of footy, I guess, in about 18 months. So he's probably going to take a little bit of time. But we'll see what Leon goes with next week. And unfortunately, probably won't be Kieran Briggs getting a look in. It'll just be Prusy and Flinny because Briggsy copped one in the face yesterday. I think he's maybe broken a bone or two, the big fella. So.
Ooh, right. Well, that's one.
Upsetting for him.
One to know. Yes, he did have a nice little shiner when I did see the pictures of that as well. So let's now turn to the Swans. Now, you're standing there in that back line. You're looking straight into the midfield. What did you see from Isaac Heaney, and is he a lock in your Fantasy Classic team?
Yeah, he's in my forward line, and I think he's going to stay there. So yesterday, I was on the bench at the start and saw the first centre bounce, and Isaac was on ball, and my eyes lit up from a fantasy coach point of view. So he had some kind of shiny Nike boots on, and they looked good running through the midfield. So he looks a lock for everyone's forward line. I think $650,000, I think he is. It's serious value, and you just got to jump on him, I think.
Yeah, well, I will be, and I reckon most people will after seeing that. We'll be watching him again next week. Let's look at some other Swans there. Chad Warner, he could be a good one for draft leagues, I reckon, because he's probably going to go very, very late, and you might be able to pick up a bargain. He had a fair bit of time on ball as well.
Yeah, another one with the flashy Nike boots. I saw him running around, and I thought his inside work was really good. So laid plenty of tackles, plenty of handball received, plenty of kicks. He actually took a few marks as well from memory. It was just, I think it was his speed that really stood out for me. He was lightning across the ground and unbelievable agility. So he's very quick to get forward, and I think he might have even kicked a goal or two possibly. So he looks like a good little pickup if you can grab him, late in the draft.
Definitely. Now, one player that a few people over social media maybe got a little bit cool on might have been Jake Lloyd. So there were plenty of fans out there taking stats, which I love about these preseason games, because we don't get the official stats live or anything that from Champion Data, and people have probably got their notepads out and doing this. And Jake Lloyd had a pretty low score. Is that anything to worry about for anyone thinking about him, do you reckon?
I wouldn't think so. Like, having watched Jake Lloyd in the past, he loves to rack it up. But I feel like yesterday wasn't really a game where the Swans kind of chipped it around too much or had too many handball received in that back half. So I thought our forwards were very good, and Swans defenders were kind of under the pump. So there wasn't, too much kind of cheap ball getting around. We defended them pretty well in the front half. So I think whenever he got the ball and had an opportunity, he looked pretty good. But I don't think that there was too much opportunity. It was pretty hot and pretty slippery and wet at times. It was just so hot and sweaty. So he still looked good from the other end of the ground, I thought, but I didn't think that they tipped the ball around and slowed it down as much as they probably tend to normally.
I guess a game like what you had last night is going to be different to what we might see next week in the Amy Community Series game, and then completely different then to what we'd see in round one. Yeah,
definitely. So, Jake Lloyd, I wouldn't say a veteran, but he's a seasoned campaigner. So, he'll be just winding up as the weeks go on, and I'd say he'll just get better each week, and he'll probably step it up again next week and get ready for round one.
All right. Now, you've been putting your fantasy team together. I've heard that you've spent probably more hours than what a lot of people have on it. Now, how is that looking at the moment? You got any sneaky picks for us that you're super keen on?
I'm not too sure about any sneaky picks. I really like Clayton Oliver. I think he's good value in the midfield. He's 100,000 cheaper than your couple of expensive guys over $1 million. So big fan of Clayton. Love his game. Very funny fella as well. So I think it's a year where he's going to bounce back in terms of his fantasy game, and he could add another 5 or 10 on what he did last year. And I think a bit more attention might go to Petrarca this year, just with how he can impact the game. So I think Oliver's a pick for mine. I like the look of Crouch yesterday. He looked really good back in Adelaide's team, but I think he's going to be, very highly owned. And Paddy Cripps looked unbelievable the other day, and probably as fit as he's been in the last 3 years. So they're probably the three I really like in terms of a midfield point of view. But, the rest of them, at the moment, I've got a couple of cheap rucks in Witts and Prusy, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. So I might have to put a word into Leon to give Prusy a game.
Exactly. So over this next week or so, as a fantasy coach, what sort of things will you be looking out for?
Probably to see, I guess, the rotation through the midfield for some clubs. So you've got, at the moment, I've got Adam Treloar and Taran Thomas in my forward line. I guess I just have to see, when Anderson comes back into the fold and Simpkin as well at North Melbourne, and then Treloar, how they go with, splitting up their CBAs for the Bulldogs, because obviously they have a number of blokes who roll through there, and I think Bailey Smith was out the other day, and maybe I think they might have had everyone else apart from that, but Bontempelli played a fair bit forward, so just got to see, I guess, if that rolls there and if it's worth the price tag. So
that's what it's all about now. Can you find a spot for a bloke that's a 190k defender? Yourself. Are you going to pick yourself?
Yeah, Yeah, not a chance, mate. So, one, I'm not that vain. Two, I'm not that good at fantasy football. And three, I'm going to try and get a gig myself for round one. So,
well, let's hope you do, because we were at Utah's Stadium watching your elimination final last year, and there was a bloke that was on 52 points after the first quarter. Now, that is double your average for the season. You racked up 10 disposals, 5 marks, 2 tackles. Can't you just do that each quarter and average 200 for the year?
Yeah, there was a time there where I was thinking, I might have 30 here today, but no, reality set in. I think I ended up on 14 or something. So
yeah,
I
ended up with 66 points after 56 after 52 shocking. At the quarter.
Shocking. It's a thing that kills fantasy coaches, seeing you get off to such a good start and then blowing up like a Mack truck. So.
Brilliant, mate. Oh, well, good luck for over these next couple of weeks. Hopefully we see you there in that Giants lineup and doing your thing, but more importantly, hopefully your fantasy team's flying this season.
No, I appreciate it, mate. Hopefully there'll be a hat for me at the end of the year.
Legend. Thanks so much, mate.
Cheers, Warnie.